Hi everyone, Dr. Eric Kaufman here. Now, we've already looked in a previous tutorial at how we can find a good supplier. Now we're going to look at how we can find a good buyer for our product. Since we're acting as brokers, we want to be able to connect good suppliers with good buyers to initiate a deal. So we'll look at how we can find a buyer, how we can use Alibaba to find a buyer, how we can use TradeKey to find a buyer, using business directories and cold calling businesses to find buyers, how we can showcase our product online so buyers can find us, how we can use Import Genius, Zeppel, Panjiva, and cold calling businesses to find buyers, how we can use government tenders, how we can find buyers locally. We'll look at a pizza box case study from a colleague of mine and end with a demo of Alibaba.com and Zeppel to find buyers. Businesses are always buying products, so there are always opportunities to sell them. Finding buyers online is fantastic because there are many opportunities, there are many bigger opportunities, there's more diversity, so buyers are looking for a big variety of products. Although there are more scams and more non-serious buyers that are just window shopping. So there are two ways to find buyers online: free, and they tend to be lower quality buyers and many non-serious buyers, and they don't cost anything. On the other hand, there are paid ways, which result in higher quality buyers, more serious buyers, however, they're usually expensive. Aside from finding buyers online, you can also find buyers offline or locally by cold calling companies. There are fewer opportunities and less diversity in what the buyers are buying. However, there are fewer scams and fewer non-serious buyers. We'll get more into that in a moment. So, our first method of finding buyers online is using Alibaba's buyer search option. The positives of this method are: one, it's the biggest market of buyers in the world. There are literally thousands of buy requests daily across different products, different categories, different quantities, and different dates. You can categorize buyers by product, country, quantity, the date that they placed their order, the date that they posted their request for a price, and whether or not they are a volume buyer. Now, this is a new feature by Alibaba.com, which allows you to see buyers who have legitimately purchased over $1 million in products within the last year. And this is a great tool for assessing real buyers who are actually serious in closing a deal. Next is extensive company background information. So Alibaba allows you to access an extensive set of information on the company, including certifications, website, addresses, contact information. And using Alibaba, it's easy to tell the serious from the non-serious buyers, and we'll show you how to do that in the tutorial. The negatives are it's expensive. The lowest cost option to search buyers on Alibaba.com is $300 per year. Now, I should point out that it is free to search buyers on Alibaba.com, but you must pay their membership fee of $300 to become a gold member in order to respond to buyers and communicate with them. Next is that there are many non-serious buyers because Alibaba allows buyers to post their requests online without a fee, so there are many non-serious buyers. However, it's actually very easy to weed them out, to weed out the non-serious from the serious, and we'll show you how to do that in the tutorial. I personally used Alibaba.com for finding a buyer for my grain deal. Next is using TradeKey buyer search. So TradeKey.com is a website like Alibaba.com, and it's a directory of buyers and sellers, just like Alibaba.com. So the positives for using TradeKey are it's the second biggest market of buyers in the world, number one being Alibaba.com. And you can search buyers by product, country, and the date that they submitted their request for quote. And then the key feature here is that it's free to quote a price for buyers after enough time has passed. So with Alibaba.com, you have to be a paying member to be able to quote any buyer. You have to pay approximately $300 a year to have access to the buyers. With TradeKey.com, you can actually access the buyers for free and quote them if 7 days have passed since they have posted their request for quote. Now the negatives. It can be very expensive, $500 to $2,500 a year for unlimited access to buyers. And what the membership payment does is it allows you to respond to requests for quotes within 7 days of the request for quote being submitted. Now, I find that very expensive for having a 7-day advantage, and once again, you can just wait till those 7 days have passed and reply to the request for quote completely for free. Next is it has limited company information compared to Alibaba.com. You don't get as much information on the company's background, on the company's revenues, on the company's employees, on the company's certifications. It's very limited company information. Next is limited protection and background checks. So TradeKey doesn't perform as extensive of a background check as Alibaba.com. And so it's best to be paranoid when dealing with buyers on TradeKey when compared to buyers on Alibaba.com. Although you should always conduct your own background check, it's better when the directory like Alibaba or TradeKey offers background checks and protection to the seller. And finally, there are many non-serious buyers, and unlike Alibaba, it's a lot more difficult to tell the non-serious from the serious buyers. Once again, the key advantage to TradeKey.com is it's free to quote any buyer 7 days after they've submitted their request for quote. So, using business directories and cold calling businesses, online or offline. When you look at a business directory and you just find any business, for example, that trades grains, or for example, a bakery that will have a requirement for grains, you can simply cold call them, tell them what products and services you offer, and try to sell them on using your company as a supplier. So the positives of this method are that it's free. Business directories are free online and offline. Many directories have many different types of businesses, so although there's not as much variety as online, there's still a lot of variety. Scams are much less likely, as these are businesses that have been around for a while and therefore they're on these business directories. You will likely meet with them face to face. You will speak with them on the phone. However, there's still always a chance for scams, however, less likely than online. And now we'll look at the negatives. The companies might not be open to new sellers. Since you're cold calling them, you have to convince them to switch from their current supplier to you. So the companies might not be open to that. You need to convince the buyer, since they might not be in the market for a particular product. So if you want a bakery, for example, to carry your gluten-free grain, and they currently don't have gluten-free grains in their bakery or any gluten-free products in their range, you would need to convince them to buy from you, even if they aren't in the market to purchase. Now, limited search functionality, both offline and online. Most business directories have poor search functions. And some people are just uncomfortable with cold calls. So some people get nervous calling other companies out of the blue and trying to sell them on their own products. Whereas online, you could communicate first by email or by messaging before making calls with your potential buyers. Next, showcasing your product online is a great way for buyers to find you. You basically register with Alibaba.com, TradeKey.com, or many other online places, and you showcase your products for buyers to find you. So buyers can search your product in the Alibaba or TradeKey search bar, and your products will show up. So the positives are it's usually free to list your products online, and many directories with many types of businesses and many different products exist. So you can find directories that are very specific to your product, where you are more likely to find serious buyers. The negatives are you will receive a lot of spam offers online, a lot of offers just looking for prices or trying to pull a fee scam on you, which I'll go into later in another tutorial. But I'll show you how you can pick the scams out and ignore them. You also have to wait for people to find you. Instead of actively looking for buyers, you have to wait for the buyers to find you. However, you're usually going to employ a multitude of different ways to find buyers. You will showcase your products, but you will also cold call, or you will also search for buyers on Alibaba.com or TradeKey. So that negative isn't really an issue. When showcasing your product online, list your product information with as many details and good quality pictures online to stand out and be noticed by other serious buyers. Next is using Import Genius, Zeppel, and Panjiva, and cold calling businesses. Import Genius, Zeppel, and Panjiva allow you to search US customs data. It's extremely useful. It's an absolute goldmine for finding real legitimate buyers. It allows you to view all US customs import data and find companies that are actually buying and see all of their imports. So you can see if company XYZ is purchasing 1,000 tons of sugar a year. That information is all available for you to see. All company information is available, including addresses and even phone numbers, so you can contact these companies directly. And you can search buyers by product, country, and date. And scams are almost 0% simply because these companies have actually purchased these goods, and these goods have been reported to customs. However, even though scams are almost 0%, scams still do exist. So the negatives are that they are extremely expensive, around $200 per month or $2,000 per year for a year plan. And then once again, we have the same issues with cold calling. Companies might not be open to new sellers. They might be comfortable with their current supplier, and you need to convince the buyer to use you as a supplier. And once again, some people are uncomfortable with cold calls, but it's best to just get over that and start doing business. Next are government tenders. The US and Canadian government and other governments worldwide post online requests for products and services daily. And any citizen of these countries and a few other types of residents are able to bid on these contracts. The positive is that they're inexpensive to view and search, usually only around $20 per month. They are provided by the government, so they are very secure and a very serious buyer, and your payment is guaranteed once you've signed the contract. All buying information is obviously available, including phone numbers of the buyer. And you can search tenders by product, category, and date. And once again, scams are almost 0% because you're dealing with the government. The negatives are these contracts for goods can be very complex, and so it might be difficult to wrap your head around all the requirements for a contract, and it's very difficult to actually win one of these government tenders and win the contract to supply the government with goods or services. There's also a lot of competition by companies that have been doing this for many years, and you need to convince the government entity to use you as a supplier, which can be very difficult. Finally, locally. You can simply find local companies, call them up or visit them in person, and see if you can supply them with your particular goods or services. So, the positives of this are that it's obviously free. You get to meet the decision maker face to face. And companies are much more open to doing business with you when they see you face to face as opposed to hearing your voice on the phone or messaging you online. The negatives of this are you must do all of your homework on the company on your own. None of it is provided for you, such as on Alibaba.com or TradeKey, which you can find using some Googling or their company website. And this method can be more uncomfortable than cold calling since you actually have to meet in person. So, the pizza box case study. A colleague and a friend of mine called 3 small pizza chains in his city, each with between 15 to 30 stores in the city and a few in the neighboring towns. He had conversations with the owners and found out that they purchase about 3 million pizza boxes per year collectively. So altogether, these 3 companies were purchasing over 3 million pizza boxes per year collectively. A search on Alibaba.com shows that the average pizza box sells at wholesale for approximately 30 cents to 50 cents per box, depending on the quantity you purchase and depending on the supplier. He learned from his conversations with these pizza companies that they were paying around 50 cents per box, and he thought he could find a cheaper supplier in Lebanon, which is his home country, below 50 cents per box. So he found a supplier who supplied that volume of boxes at around 47 cents per box. Now, that might not seem like a lot of difference, but let's look at the numbers. So the potential savings to the buyer are $1.5 million for 3 million boxes at 50 cents each, minus $1.455 million at 47 cents per box, and that comes out to $90,000 in savings to the companies, which is a very attractive offer to the buyers. They get to save collectively $100,000 per year on boxes just by switching to his supplier. He then negotiated with the supplier a commission of $0.015 per box, or a cent and a half per box. Fractions of a cent are sometimes used at this volume, to be transferred to his bank account after every sale is made. Now, that might not seem like a lot. It's 1.5 cents. But collectively, 1.5 cents per box times 3 million boxes comes out to $45,000. So this means by arranging this deal just once, he will continue to earn a commission totaling $45,000 per year just for arranging this deal one time. Now I'll show you an on-screen demo of how to find a buyer on Alibaba.com and how to search companies on Zeppel. Thank you.